Okay.
Good to have you on, Jen. Yeah, so people that don't know, could you just describe what you do in physio, really?
Lovely. Thanks for having me. So I'm a performing arts physio with a specialism in looking after the voice. I went to Manchester Met Uni, did my rotations afterwards, but only did MSK and orthopedics. I'd done a fair other amount of departments on my placements, but I knew quite quickly I wanted to be in the kind of MSK sector, which is kind of musculoskeletal, kind of muscle bone, kind of sports injury. But I always danced on the side, and I quite quickly got into the performance sector after moving to London, and a series of work between like West End shows and clinic in Central on Harley Street has kind of tumbled me into working more in the performing arts sector with theatre, on Strictly, in the music sector, a whole shebang, and leading physio services at a school called Arts Ed, which is a performing arts school.
Lovely stuff. How did you so was it a hobby that got you into the performing arts sector? Or was it you actually seeking it out alongside the hobby, if you know what I mean?
It was a happy accident. So
Okay.
I didn't even consider coming into my course that performing arts was even a sector to do physio in. I went into my course very much considering that I liked sport and that I might end up doing some degree of work in sport. And I took my sports massage qualification whilst I was studying physio. So I've
Mhm.
been working on running events and things like that. But it is only by chance, or look, maybe it's meant to be. A colleague of mine that worked with me called Danica, who is amazing, um, told me about a friend who worked in London at this performing arts clinic, and had I heard of it, and wouldn't I be interested in kind of seeing what that was like after I'd posted like a dance video, and I was like, this has just blown my mind. I did not
Yeah.
know this was possible. And then for a series of events, I kind of put a word in for seeing if I could go and get some work experience. I ended up getting a job interview, and then I was kind of in. And once I was in, I was like, let me get as much experience as I can because I don't really know how long this is going to last. And we're now several years later. But yeah, it kind of ended up a domino effect of opportunities of once I was in London, there was lots to take advantage of in terms of like shows to work on, workshops, etc. And after that finished, it was then contacts that I'd made from those existing shows in different shows, and then
Mm.
I went on tour, and yeah.
And what was that like for you in terms of that work-life balance? Because obviously, I imagine that
Oh,
performing arts sector is very different to the classic 9 to 5 NHS rotation, or or just that private clinic life.
yeah, it's quite interesting. Like, I think also because I was kind of newish grad, this was me 8 months post qualifying, really. I kind of wanted to do everything. And it was also like I'm from Derby, Midlands, and I'd just lived in Manchester. So London, I'd travel in and out of, but I'd never seen the work life side of it. So I
Hmm.
was very much get in, do as much as you can. And it wasn't 9 to 5 per se, but it was done in terms of like I was working in a clinic, and then I would go
Mm.
out to shows on certain days. But for instance, I'd have like a day off in the middle of the week. So I might work Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, half day. Um,
Hmm.
and I've kind of worked to Saturday since I can remember, unless I'm like doing other projects. So
Hmm.
work-life balance, being brutally honest, when I first came to London, non-existent. But I think I slowly kind of found the corners of places that I enjoyed and where to put myself. And I think speaking to many people that work in healthcare or other, we're constantly trying to find that balance of like how much, how little, and it will change. But yeah, in those early days, very tricky.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay. And so within, do you find any similarities and crossovers from that the typical physio job, if you like, to then to what you're doing now?
I love that, the like typical physio job. I don't think there is one. I think we do a three
Yeah.
year qualification that covers a lot of stuff, and part of it is out on placement, and your placements will vary from the person who sat next to you studying. And
Yeah.
because of that, and because of your experiences, what you qualify as, like I'd speak to a number of my colleagues when we qualified, we were like are we allowed to be physios? It doesn't feel like we've learned a lot. So the concept of rotations, I believe, and from what I understood, was to increase that experience. And I totally believe in it. But I do feel that the job that you would go into in the NHS on your rotations or in a specific department is heaps different then to what it is now. I know for colleagues that are MSK physios like I am in the NHS, they're working with a lot of chronic pain because of the referral timeframes and because of the frequency that they are able to see people on the NHS. But I class
Hmm.
myself as an MSK physio and I'm seeing a lot of acute pain and a bit of chronic, but I'm kind of seeing people maybe in some instances a week or a few days after the injury is triggered, or even in some instances they're coming to prevent problems. So I think the standard physio is really tricky because it actually doesn't exist. And that's only
Mm.
MSK physio. We've then got respiratory and so on.
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
Yeah. So do you feel your placements, if you go back to your university, you didn't did you feel like you saw enough in terms of acute versus chronic, if you like?
I think I was really lucky with my placements, but also I tried to make a point of I wanted to see a bit of everything. I had a
Mm.
really good respiratory placement. I went to a neurology hospital. I worked in a cancer unit. Like I had some
Mm.
really good placements and I was quite happy with them. And actually one of them was where I ended up getting a job in orthopedics. So thank you
Bro.
to them. Um, but like I said, I think you never feel like you know enough. And I think with research constantly coming out, the type of physio or the type of treatment plans that I would have given as a new grad are nothing compared to what I do now. I often say to people, most of how I treat and I um approach sessions or plan, hardly any of it feels like it was learned from the time at uni, even though the foundations were there. I think there's a lot of CPD, a lot of like reading research or going on courses or meeting and discussing, and a lot actually of just seeing patients and going, well, that works, or that doesn't work, or this feels like a good treatment method or way for me to work as a practitioner, because I think it's important to recognize that also as practitioners in different fields of physio, we will work differently because we are different people and we will have different skill sets to a degree to offer.
Going into the performing arts job, did you know you had those skills within you already, or was that kind of like let's go and see sort of thing?
I think I texted my mom like a few months into no, not even months, I think a few weeks into the job, like, I can't
Mm.
do this. I genuinely was like, what have I done? This is amazing, but I don't think I'm capable. And I think
Mm.
every physio in some degree of their career or work life will have had that moment where they go, do I actually have the skills for this? And I think it's just a human response. But I think what I try to pride myself in is if I think I can't do it and I'm sticking at the thing, I will go, what do I need? What do I need to go and learn? Who do I need to speak to? Like, who can facilitate my learning, or what course can I go on? So quite quickly, it was like I had really supportive colleagues there. Um, and I would lean on them and ask them questions, or I went, you know what, I probably need to go and do a taping course, or actually I need acupuncture here, or I've been taught how to do joint minutes, but now I want to learn how to do it and understand why people apply it in certain places, and is it effective, isn't it? And just I think I got a taste for that quite early, and I like to give the people that I see some degree of choice when
Mhm.
I feel I have the skill set. So I think that kind of approach to learning was the factor that made me feel like I could not drown in the demand.
That's really cool. So, in terms of all those CPD courses and stuff you were doing, was that yourself reflecting on, you're looking at your caseload, for example, and the types of injuries that you're seeing and thinking, what are my skills, what part of my skill set do I need to enhance here? Or was that was that by yourself, or was that kind of with, say, like a supervisor or just another colleague?
I think there was a degree of me, like say when I was at uni, I knew I wanted to get into sports, so I was like, I need a sports massage qualification because that gets me straight in and then I can start. And then there was a
Mhm.
lot of kind of considering what do the people that I aspire to work around have under their belt, like what skills have they already got? It would be discussions with colleagues. I'd we'd often have like a doctor's MDT that we'd meet and go over cases and things like that. And hearing about how other people treated was helpful. But I'd say very much now I've had this time working for myself, it's more just the importance of going, put yourself around people that maybe see different caseloads or
Mhm.
work in different environments so you can get an understanding of like what I want to learn and what I have interest in, but also what is useful outside of what I do. So knowing where my boundaries are and going, you know what, I can't ultrasound scan to diagnose that. I could send to a doctor, but also I know a really experienced qualified physio that can do that ultrasound diagnostics and then send it back or whatever the
Mhm.
kind of specialism might be. Um, and it's nice, like having years now into my practice, I know what I enjoy, I know what I think that I can offer people. So I'm kind of sitting into that now, which
Yeah,
is a nice place to be.
and you take your skill set and correct me if I'm wrong, you have that shared decision making with your patients and your clients in terms of
Yeah.
what you both feel will be most beneficial moving forward in terms of treatment and things like that.
That's it. It's very much teamwork. I think a lot of what physios do is kind of almost translate the information that people come in with. We're teaching people the language of their body, and I think it's a really cool position to be in. But we can't do our job without the person who's sat across. And actually, a lot of some of the work I do is just listening and giving someone space to go, I've had a really rubbish time with this. And I've maybe been to 10 different people who don't know the answer and I'm frustrated and I don't know where to start
Mhm.
and I can't do my job. And just trying to help that person unpick what's going on, trying to help them understand it, and trying to formulate a plan that is on board with their lifestyle so they can succeed. And I think that's
Mhm.
really what I'm trying to promote, particularly when it comes to maybe younger groups coming into the healthcare world that are a bit more fearful, to just show them it doesn't have to be a scary process. It's essentially you learning about how your body changes and what your body is trying to tell you, and that's should be a liberating thing.
Yeah. No, it's definitely really like refreshing to hear that you take that time to talk to your patients and clients and not go straight into into the role of treatment and how to get better. It's more just a safe space to talk. Definitely something that should be considered more within physio, and I think it is being considered more. Um,
Mm.
certain settings don't allow for it, I'm sure, but it seems like
This is
it's
it.
great. Yeah, carry on, sorry.
No, no, it's all right. This is exactly it. I think I only do that now because I have been in environments where maybe that has not been promoted or
Hmm.
that has been, you need to get treated within a certain amount of time of that person coming in. And so that other focus has been there. And then I go, have I treated that right? Did I actually understand what was happening with that person?
Mm.
Are they getting better at the rate that I know they could? Why maybe did that interaction not go well? And when you see the flip side of it, which is not easy, in some elements to kind of you get a lot of emotion in the physio room sometimes, and it's just knowing your boundaries with that. I do think it is really valuable with people when you've got the time to.
Yeah, definitely. Do you, how's your skill set in terms of recognizing those situations when it is time to take that foot off the accelerator in terms of treatment and just let the time to breathe, and then the other time where you should do the whole objective and going through in terms of explaining what's going on in the body and going forward that way. Yeah, how do you find uh
I think
yeah, finding the difference?
the approach that I take to sessions is the second a new person comes through the door, I want to, it's a person meeting a person. I want to know why they've come to me, what they want out of the session,
Mm,
and like what are we trying to do here? So I think before I've gone into like must treat shoulder, frozen shoulder or impingement or whatever, I need to understand what the person's about because I don't want to enter a treatment plan when I've not recognized that actually they've got an 8 show week, they haven't got time to do any exercises, they're stressed, they're not sleeping, they maybe have a deficiency that has been unrecognized because you miss all of that. If you give people time to break things down in their first appointment, sometimes they work it out themselves and they go,
mm,
oh, you know what? particularly with some like vocal physio clients. I'll come in and they'll tell me their history and they'll be like, oh, I had a vocal coach, but my vocal coach gave me some warm-up exercises, but actually I haven't been doing them recently. And actually I haven't been doing them since I've had this problem. Oh, maybe that's it. And sometimes you just allow that space for someone
Mhm.
who's really on the go to just go, oh, I know what it is now. And then you give the extra, but
Mm.
just I don't know, you learn so much about a person in that first appointment, I believe, if you have the time to, and if they are in a place to be comfortable enough to share.
Definitely, and it's about creating that environment for them to feel comfortable as well, and that I think that comes across from the physio's personality and just the way they are generally, isn't it? So that's definitely an interesting topic we can get into later on, and then maybe not today, 'cause we'll
We
try
can
and
talk
keep
about
this. Yeah, we'll try and keep this within 20 minutes or so. But bro, so just so we're aware in terms of the timings as well, just because we haven't mentioned that, what is your typical
it.
let's say your initial consultation? What?
I'm really, again, very thankful that because I work for myself, I can dictate that a little bit more. What I
Mm,
will say is because I've worked in NHS and I've worked for other companies, I've worked in scenarios in NHS where I've got about 20, 30 minutes to see a new client, get them a plan, in, out, won't see them for a few weeks. Or I've
mm,
worked in private clinics that have been, you get 30 minutes, that's it to try and figure out what it is, give them a plan or treat them, and then they'll come
mm,
back when they can. And equally, I've worked in schools, not of present, but quite kind of when I first moved to London, I've worked in schools that gave me 15 minutes with a young student to try to settle their worries when they walk in with a boot on their foot and they want to dance, which is next to impossible. So initial appointments with me are 45 minutes because I don't like to miss things. And I believe that people will get more out of 45 minutes on a first appointment with me than they will
mm.
on 30 minutes if I miss things and have to get them to come back quite soon after. If people have a difficulty with time, then sometimes I can make allowances for 30, but I tend not to, just because there's so much, one, to learn about the person, two, to establish about their current routine, and that will inform what I then do treatment wise and planning wise, because I like everyone to be able to leave and go, this is what I've learned, this is what I probably need to do, but this is what I do now.
Yeah, that's really good. So we're going to wrap up in just in a second, but with everything we've mentioned just now and within the whole podcast today, for the students that are listening to this podcast, many of them will be thinking, oh, I've learned about this objective and how to make the patient feel and create that safe environment, as we mentioned today. But those time constraints can add too much pressure onto that, which me being a student, obviously, I speak to many other students,
Mm,
and that is definitely echoed across. So, what would your advice be in terms of that relationship building? Our skills might not be so good where we can cover everything within that half-hour
yeah,
session. What would you say to focus on? What would your number one goal be within that first
that's a
session? It's a
great
tough
question.
question, but yeah.
No, it's a good question. I think what's really important is to set expectations. If
Mhm,
your patient coming in doesn't have a realistic expectation of, let's say, for instance, speed of recovery or what the actual issue is, if you've worked it out, or when their follow up is, or even something as basic as what they're doing in the appointment, you're typically going to leave with or finish with someone feeling unsatisfied or frustrated. So sometimes, even if you recognize this patient's got a lot going on, or they've come in with shoulder, knee, arm, etc., it's not a bad thing to say, we're going to spend this appointment working out what's going on with multiple places, but we might not get your treatment plan done today because I want to collect information. Or it might be, I'd like to prioritize your worst region of pain or biggest difficulty, and we'll come back to the others. Or just setting or saying a line that gets them on the same kind of mindset as you to go, we can maybe achieve this goal within this time frame. And if you don't quite crack it, it's not the end of the world, but at least you then set out with a shared goal to kind of know, right, these are my boundaries of this appointment, and this is what I feel I'm capable of doing with this time.
That's a really good piece of advice. And thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully it was helpful.
Definitely was. And yeah, we'll definitely have you again if you're up for it.
Totally open to it.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.